What do you think of when you hear the words Alfa Romeo? Is it a sexy Italian sports car from the 60s? A dainty 1970s Alfa Sud? The brutalist 1980s wedge of the SZ? Or maybe the chic 90s 156 Saloon, one of the best-selling modern-day Alfas?
Whichever flavour of Alfa Romeo your mind's eye conjures up, I bet it's a sporty, dynamic car, brimming with Italian brio and a sense of La Dolce Vita, and there's every chance it may be blood red in colour. Which means that this is something of a seismic shift. It's the Alfa Romeo Junior. It's the brand's first electric car, and there's no Busso V6 or twin cam 4 under there. There's a single, silent electric motor driving the front wheels.
The Junior is a compact crossover that'll compete with the Fiat 600e, the new Renault 4 E-Tech and the Mini Aceman. And it's deceptively small. At less than 4.2 metres in length, it's not much bigger than a Super Mini, inflated by a few PSI for a more junior SUV vibe.
On paper, this should be a really clever segment to get into. Small crossovers are where it's at, and it means that everything is a little bit less. The price, the mass, the footprint, the weight. It's a good thing all round. You can buy an Alfa Romeo Junior Electrica from around £34,000, and there are finance deals under £300 a month, which is pretty keen value for something wearing the Alfa badge. Now, it's quite cosy in here, but this is not a big car. But the cabin is welcoming enough, and there's a couple of nice touches which will be familiar to the faithful Alfisti.
There are exaggeratedly cowled instruments in a nod to the deeply dished dials in Alfas of old. The readouts are all digital nowadays, but they're easy to read, and I love details like the Turinese snake motif that turns into a charging cable on the range meter.
I love these cloverleaf shaped air vents over here. They're very tactile, lovely to use, and they've got a very nice illuminated red serpent motif, along with a red light around the dials in here. It really feels quite cool actually, but it's a bit of a shame because at night time this reflects in the side window. This 10.3 inch touchscreen is very easy to use, but you will rely a lot on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto because there's not many other features that exist on there. I think it's worth drawing attention to some of the plastics. There's a real mix between the nice quality materials and some of the sort of tinier, rather plasticky ones, which feel a bit at odds with the Alfa Romeo badge. Now, those compact dimensions mean that it is very cramped in the back here for grown-ups. Kids will be fine, but honestly, I'm not sure I'm going to get out of here very easily, but... Oh, goodness gracious. Oh. But it may be cramped in there. At least the boot is quite a good size. It's 400 litres, which I think for a compact crossover isn't too bad at all. So there's plenty of space to put all your belongings in here. There's a little cubby for your charging cable as well. Now, of course, a lot of electric cars do have a frunk as well. Come on, who are we kidding? This is an Alfa Romeo. We all want to know what it's like to drive. Curiously, there's an engine start button, which seems a bit odd in this electric age. But let's go and take to the open road and see what it's made of. As befits its name, the Junior is the smallest of 3 SUVs in the Alfa Romeo lineup. I can't quite believe they have 3 crossovers now, obviously fitting beneath the Tonale and then the Stelvio. Now, that means it's quite a compact size. I like that. It also means it's only 1.5 tons, and I also like that. It means it's got quite a fleet of foot, agile feel to it, helped by this rather quick steering. One thing we don't like is the brake pedal feel, which I have to say the first couple of inches of travel. It's very snatchy and grabby, and everyone who's driven it on the Car Magazine team feels the same. You eventually get used to it, but it's not the Junior's finest moment. But what is better is the performance. Now, we are here in the Alfa Romeo Junior Elettrica Speciale, and what we find is that actually performance is quite well judged. It has 154 brake horsepower driving the front wheels. It's not quick, you'll need to step up to the Veloce for that, but it's pretty decent turn of speed, and it's just well judged, you know, for the entry-level power output. I rather like it. There is a 54 kilowatt-hour battery, and what that means is that you have a range claimed to be 255 miles. And even on this rather chilly December morning, the range meter has been saying about 250 miles. So that's quite impressive, and I think that is to be commended.
If you want more Italian punch, you can trade up to the Junior Veloce spec, which brings 276 brake horsepower and 254 pound-foot of torque for 0 to 62 in 5.9 seconds. Plus, you get a limited slip differential for a proper sleeper hit. Alfa Romeo is also bringing in the Junior Hybrid, showing the versatility of the ECMP2 platform, which also underpins the Vauxhall Mocha and Jeep Avenger. It's a clever insurance policy in case the take-up of electric cars in Europe grinds to a halt.
The Junior is really at home here around town. It's kind of right-sized for nipping down city streets. We find it very calm as well. It's a very refined drivetrain in here, which I really like. The ride quality is pretty calm on the whole, pretty smooth. Can be a little bit jiggly at low speed, and actually it seems to be improving the faster we go. But really, one of the most impressive things about the car is how much more sprightly it feels than the Jeep Avenger, which can be a bit leaden. That's the car with whom it shares the ECMP2 platform in the Stellantis parlance. And we find this car is a little bit more quick-witted. Quite a lot of that's to do with the steering, which is much faster than you will find on an Avenger or other models within the Stellantis range. And it really changes the character. It gives it a little bit of dartiness, makes it feel more agile. I like that. An Alfa Romeo should feel a bit spicier, shouldn't it, really? Around town, we're averaging somewhere between 3.5 and 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is kind of fair. It's not exceptional for a small EV, but you know, it's kind of reasonable. And you can improve that by going down here to the DNA drive mode selector. You've got D for dynamic if you want to get your sporty hat on, N for normal driving, and A stands for advanced efficiency, which will throttle back things like the climate control to make sure you use less electricity as you drive along. But still, you are eventually going to run that charge down, and that's when you're going to have to dive off and find where your nearest charging station is.
The Alfa Romeo Junior has a 54 kilowatt-hour battery, and it will charge from 10 to 80% in just under half an hour, accepting a charge at up to 100 kilowatts. It's a likeable package, and I think Alfa has nailed the look of its first electric car. Stellantis parts sharing has enabled a cool-looking and competent EV in record time, and I think the price, positioning and timing of the Junior mean that it deserves to do well.
Will we remember this as one of the great Alfa Romeos? Maybe not. But the Junior is remarkably grown up, and it's much more in keeping with the zeitgeist than the Mito or the Giulietta ever were.